Hello everybody, thank you so much for joining us for this lunchtime session. My name is Helen Tupper. I'm going to be with you for the next 45 minutes talking all about squiggly careers. Before we get started, just a couple of, Zoom bits and bobs. Keep the chat open. You can chat to each other if you wish to, though I hope that you're going to be listening to me for 45 minutes. I'm going to ask you a few questions as we go through, so it's worth having chat there because we'll use that a little bit so that we can interact. If you do have any specific questions, so if it's not hello from Canada or Barcelona, hello to all of you, and if it's not that kind of stuff that's going on in the chat, put your questions in the Q&A. I won't miss them then. They might get a bit lost in the chat if your questions go into the chat. So as I'm talking about squiggly careers and all the things that we're going to touch on today, questions in Q&A, general chat, and interaction with me over in the chat. What we're going to do for this session, it's going to be pretty speedy, everybody, because I want to share as much as I can to help you with your career. So in a second, I'm going to share my screen, but I am not going to click through slides for 45 minutes, so you can have some relief from slides. I am going to draw my way through the conversation that I'm having with you so that I can bring some of these concepts to life for you. And my aim is to bring this concept of a squiggly career to life. Like, what is it and why does owning your development matter now perhaps more than ever? And then I'm going to touch on the skills to succeed in a squiggly career. So for each of the skills, I'll go through it, I'll introduce it, I'll talk about what it is, why it's important, and the really important thing is how you can start developing it so you can take action in your career. That's the thing that we're really passionate about in my business, Amazing If, is to help people to succeed in squiggly careers so that we can make careers better for everyone, which is our mission. It's a pretty big mission. So give me a second. I am going to share my screen with you and we'll get started on what actually is a squiggly career. Let's start with that. We'll just wait for the tech to kick in. Okay, brilliant. Okay, hopefully we're all here. I'm just going to get chat open so I can see anything that you want to share while I'm doing. So what actually is a squiggly career? Well, it is not something that looks like this. Unfortunately, though, this is what a lot of us maybe expected our careers to look like. It's the idea that we would set out in our career, we'd maybe do our first job in a company, and then the job to be done after that was to climb the ladder, move up steps in a staircase, get progressively more senior, promotion by promotion, level by level, until we reach the top. And then, and only then, when we're at the top, would we be successful. And this was kind of what a lot of people were told was a job to be done at work. Sometimes it's how organizations are still structured. But this idea that careers are predictable, that they are linear, that we all want to go in the same direction, and that we all think success is getting to the top when actually then we're supposed to retire and not work anymore. It's just not reflective of the way that work works, or often what a lot of people want from work anymore. They don't want to be treated like everybody else. They don't want to be forced to only move in one direction. They want to explore. They want to be curious about their career. They want to find out what they're good at by doing different roles in different places. What most people want is something that looks more like this. They want more movement, they want more freedom, they want more career flexibility. Also, the idea that work is predictable and certain and that we can plan for it all, it just isn't our reality. There is too much change, there is too much uncertainty. And so if we set people up to climb ladders, we're really setting them up to fall behind. Because when we think that a good career is climbing a ladder, we make ourselves really vulnerable to all of the change. But when we set people up to succeed in squiggly careers, we help them to be resilient. We help them to adapt. We help them to change, to develop, and almost to be ahead of themselves, to have the skills that they need before they need them. And that's what I want to help you with. I want to give you the 5 core skills to succeed in a squiggly career. Now, we've got like 45 minutes. I've already used 6 of them introducing this to you. So it's going to be pretty fast, and I'm really just going to be introducing these skills to you and giving you a bit of a feel for what they are and giving you some action. So I can't spend lots of time with you today, but I can point you in the direction of podcasts and lots of different things that might help you to learn a bit more after the session. But let's start with what these 5 skills are. And then I'm going to talk through each of them in just a little bit more detail for you. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is values. And if I had a favourite, I don't know if I'm allowed a favourite one of the 5 skills, but if I did have a favourite, it probably would be values. Values are what makes you you, they are what motivates and drives you, and they have a huge impact on your happiness in your career. So we'll talk about that one first. Not just because it's my favourite, but really because it's at the centre of everything else. Then we'll talk about strengths. We'll think a little bit about what is it that you actually want to be known for in your career? Not just what is it that you're good at, because you'll be good at loads of different things, but what do you actually want to be known for? And we'll explore that a little bit. Then we'll talk about confidence, because I can talk to you about values and strengths for an entire day, but if I don't help you with your confidence, it's lots of awareness and potentially not a lot of action. I've got to help you build your belief in order for you to be able to take action. And that's what we'll touch on in confidence. Then we'll move on to networking. Tends to be a bit Marmite networking. Some people really love it, and you probably have missed it a bit over the past year when you've not been able to meet people in the same way. And some people really don't like it, potentially because they've had some awkward experiences. So we'll unpack that a little bit and think about how we can all network in a way that works for us. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about future. Big topic that we'll do very quickly. But the big thing with future is we're going to think about how we can think a bit more expansively about the directions we can take our career in, rather than getting really fixed to one role, to one way of progressing, to one single version of success. So we'll think a bit more expansively, and I'll give you some tools and models to do that. So really quick chat. Let me see if I can see, of those 5 areas, which is the one that you think that you would most like to know about today, with wherever you are in your career. I mean, there's a lot of people here, so these words are going to fly up very quickly, but values, strengths, confidence, network. So we've got confidence. I'm seeing lots of confidence there. Okay, it looks like confidence. Confidence and values. I'm trying to read these very quickly, everybody. Okay. All right, I would say that good spread on all of them. I think network is the loser so far. So I'm still going to talk to you about networking, everybody. But I think that the topics that are coming out the most, nobody likes networking. Mary, I feel like it is my aim to convince everybody that networking can be done authentically. So I think just a very quick scan of what people have shared, probably confidence and values seem to be the ones that are most relevant to where people are right now. They're all important. They're important at different times for us for different reasons. So let's do values first of all. For each one of these, like I said, I'm going to do the what it is, why it's important, and how you can make a start with it if you're not there already. At the end of each one, I'm going to pause for breath, but also to check out the Q&A. So if you have got a question specific to values, I'll talk about it, I'll give you some ideas for action, and then I'll check in the Q&A. So make sure you put it there, and I'll answer a few questions before I move on to strengths. Samantha loves networking. Brilliant, Samantha, so do I. Right then, what is and are values? So as I mentioned, we describe values as what motivates and drives you. Sometimes we say it's what makes you, you. We all have values, and you don't pick and choose them. So I don't meet Serena and say, who's on chat at the moment, having a few problems. I hope it gets sorted for Serena. But I don't meet Serena and say, oh, Serena is calm and driven and determined. They sound like great values. I think I should have some of those. It's not the way that values works. You just have what makes you you. And actually your values are mainly a byproduct of your upbringing. So a lot of it comes from what you absorb from your parents, from some of the people that you mixed with. There's a big cultural context to your upbringing. And then some of those decisions that you would have made sort of between the ages of about 14 and 21. In the research, it's called the socialization phase, where you start to make some decisions for yourself about what you want to do and where you want to go. That's when your values really start to show themselves and start to kind of get formed. And so what that means is by the time we're about 21, what makes you you, what motivates and drives you is set. Now, it doesn't come to us in a card on our 21st birthday. It just starts to show up in our life experience. It shows up when we're happy. It shows up when we're sad. It shows up when we're engaged in our work. And the reason it's important to think about this is you can't pick someone else's values. You just have what makes you you. And also, there is no right or wrong. So if I, for example, have values of achievement and impact and results, that is no better or worse than somebody else who has values of loyalty, honesty, and integrity. There's no good, there's no bad, there's no right, there's no wrong. There's just what makes you you. And the really important thing is to work out what those values are so that you can use them in a really conscious way. And so that you can be aware of what motivates and drives you. You can be aware of what makes you you, and you can connect that to your career. Now, all I do is talk about careers. So I'm going to talk about values in the context of your career, but you also don't have work values and home values. You just have what makes you you. And so when you start to actually find out about your values, you can often see them showing up in work and outside of work too. But from a work context, why knowing our values is important. 3 big reasons why knowing your values is important. The first one is it is a big part of what makes you happy at work. So if you can be aware of what makes you you, what motivates and drives you, and you can connect that to your career, you can get more fulfillment. So if I know that openness and relationships and competition are some of the things that are important to me, I can look at teams that I might want to work in, organizations where I might get those values fulfilled, things that I could do outside of work in side projects that might give me more of that need. And the more I have my values fulfilled, the happier I am at work. So if we don't know them, we can't use them consciously. And when we do know them, we can start to help ourselves become happier at work. So big reason. Average career length, 47 years. So work out how long you've been working and feel excited about the remaining years you have. Basically, we're spending a lot of time at work. 47 years, 80,000 hours. I think whatever we can do to make those hours and years happy, definitely worth looking at. The other reason that knowing our values can help us is it can help us to make better decisions. In our careers, whether they're staircases or squiggles, there's lots of shiny objects. Shiny objects are things like job titles, salaries, brands that you might think look amazing on your CV. Sometimes it can be people. Sometimes like a person that you might want to work with could be like a shiny object because you think, oh, I'd love to work for that person. And the problem with making decisions based on shiny objects is that those shiny objects can tarnish really quickly if you haven't got fulfillment on your values. So if I go and decide to go do a new job because it's an amazing job title that look good on my CV, but actually in no way are my values fulfilled, then that could actually really hold me back. That brilliant sounding job title doesn't make me happy for very long when I'm sat at my desk on a Zoom, thinking and questioning, what am I doing? So knowing your values can help you to make better decisions because you can look at your options and you can think, which one of these gives me more openness, which one of these gives me more achievement, which one of these gives me more creativity, whatever it is your values are. And the third reason that knowing your values can help you at work is it can help you to build better relationships with other people. So we work with lots of different people in our careers. On average, we spend more time with people we work with than we do with our friends and family. And it's not always easy. It's not always easy to work with people. But when you know what their values are and you have ways that you can explore that, and when you have the confidence to talk about your values, you can create a sense of connection with people. You can work out what motivates them and think about how you can work in a way that connects with what's most important to them. And that's what knowing your values and having the ability to talk to them can help you to do in your career. Now, values and confidence, the 2 things that you wanted to talk about most, are probably the hardest topics, to be honest. They take the longest time because they're rooted in quite a lot of psychology. So I really can only scratch the surface for you today. But I'm going to talk through one exercise that is definitely worth you doing to see if you can find some clues, as to what's motivating and driving you. I'm going to be your guinea pig for this exercise so you can see how it works in practice. I haven't actually told you what my values are yet. And I'm going to use this exercise as a way of showing you how this really simple reflection can give you some quite significant clues as to what your values are. So when you do this for yourself, you're going to think about 2 things. You're going to think about a career high and a career low. And ideally, this is really good to do with somebody else, because you can just talk and they can be a brilliant listener and they can play back what they've heard. It's what you're going to do for me now. So I would recommend finding someone you can have this conversation with. If you can't, or you don't feel confident enough, that's fine too. Maybe just kind of write this down like a notebook and just scroll and do a whole page of a high before you move on to the low. And then you can look back at what you've written. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a career high super quickly and a career low. I would love you just to listen and be like an investigator of my values. When I finish talking, I want you to play back in chat what you think my values might be. Okay, ready? So I'm going to do my high first. One of my highs was when I worked for Virgin, and I worked at the centre of Virgin, which is actually quite small. So that's the bit that Richard Branson owns, and the sort of roles that you have at the centre. There's quite a lot of investment bankers there. There's quite a lot of brand people. There's a lot of people that start businesses at the centre of Virgin, and it was never something that I had an opportunity to do before. So the reason it was a high was I was learning every day. I headed up a business. I went in to run a company called Virgin Insight, which was sort of a data business. And then I ended up launching a brand new Virgin business called Virgin Red, which is a loyalty program. And the reason it was a high was because I got to start something from scratch. Like that was amazing for me. The ability to develop and build and grow something from the ground up was amazing. It had a lot of pace to it because this business had to launch, and there were, deadlines it had to meet, and more people got involved in it. So I found that very energizing. Like all these people coming together to make this thing happen was amazing. There were some really clear milestones, like it had to launch on a date. It wasn't business as usual. I'm not very good at business as usual. This was a thing that had to happen in a relatively short amount of time on a specific date. And I think that for me, that the trust that I had from the people around me, that I could do a job that I had never done before, and they all trusted that I would still be able to do it, felt amazing. I didn't have to pretend that I always knew what I was doing, because I didn't. I was learning as I was going and learning as I was growing, if that makes sense. And I loved it. It was really hard. And I also had a baby at the same time. So that wasn't the best planning, but brilliant. So that's my high. So what are you picking out so far? Trust, authenticity, creativity, growth mindset, learning, ownership, autonomy, deadline driven. Okay, working a team. All right, I'm going to tell you my not so good moments. I mean, I've had more than one, but I'll just pick out one for you and see if this helps you any further. Okay, so a low moment. I used to work for BP, and that's not why it was low. I actually had a brilliant global job there, which I loved in marketing. But the reason it was my low was that I let work take over my life. That's the reason it became my low. So it was sort of the biggest job I'd ever had in terms of a global job. I'd never had such a big job. I had teams in different countries, and I loved the fact that I was learning about different countries and cultures and working with different people. And I also loved working in such a large organization where there were so many opportunities. The problem was that all I did was work, and I let my need to achieve take over everything else. So I stopped learning outside of work. I stopped being curious. I reflect now on that time, and I think of myself that I became a bit like a work robot. I was basically like, I am going to do an amazing job at all costs. And I think I lost a bit of myself along the way. And I did do a good job, but I wasn't necessarily completely fulfilled, because I left some things that were important to me along the way. And it was like one aspect of me was really dialed up, but all the other stuff that I loved was dialed down. I didn't feel like a sense of connection. And actually, even though it's such a large organization and I had quite a big team, I actually felt quite lonely. So that was kind of why it just didn't click for me. So what are some of the things that you've got? Balance, achievement, not being fulfilled. That's because I didn't have the values. Connection with others, collaboration, learning, growing, achievement. All right, everybody, you've been amazing listeners. Let me tell you what my values are. So I have 4 values. You typically have between 3 or 4 core values. There are lots of other things that are important to you. Many of the words that you have shared with me are things that are important to me, but I have 3 or 4 things that top trump, and you will too. It just takes a while for you to see those things consistently. So my 4: freedom. So all those people that were saying you like autonomy, You are correct. I like lots of autonomy and lots of freedom. Growth, I like to grow everything and everyone, businesses, people, the occasional plant, like growing them. Achievement, doesn't always have to be like mammoth achievements. Like it doesn't always have to be writing a book. It can just be, oh, I've done something on my to-do list. Like that I can, it's almost like small regular achievements that do it for me, to be honest. Like the small milestones rather than the big ones. And then the last one is energy. I like to be in environments and with people who have a positive attitude and want to make things happen. That's how I would articulate that. So, and actually it is important to be able to articulate these words, because maybe you've got the same value of energy and it means something completely different to you than it does to me. And when you start to spot these words coming up consistently, it is worth writing yourself a definition so that when you talk about it with other people, they don't make assumptions about what that thing is and what it means. You can say, one of the things that's most important to me is freedom. And what that means is that I'm unconstrained about the choices that I make in my work and my life. Like that's how you might describe that. So I think that you got scarily close to what my values were in me talking about them really quickly for what, 5 minutes? So I would highly recommend to start you off on your values journey, do this exercise. You can do a couple of highs and lows. So you could say, oh, do you know what? We're going to do a couple of highs and lows. We're going to do 2 highs, 2 lows. And then actually what you're trying to do is spot the words that just keep coming up time and time again. Every time you talk about a high, it's always the freedom, the growth, the energy, achievement. And every time you talk about a low, it's always like the lack of energy or the lack of results, whatever it is, you can spot the consistencies. As I said, it is a reflective process. We have a podcast episode on values, which I would suggest is a really good next step. It is episode 42, and the podcast is called the Squiggly Careers Podcast. If you ever want to find out anything that we do, just search for Squiggly Careers and you'll be able to find it pretty quickly. And then in terms of how you can put values into action more regularly, one of the things that I do is I think about it a bit like a compass. So think about this as a compass here. You know my values now. My values are, I'll draw them for you here: freedom, growth, energy, and achievement. And what I do really regularly is I just score them out of 10 with where they are today. So I might say, actually, I feel like I've got quite a lot of freedom at the moment. My choices are pretty unconstrained. Growth, I don't really feel like I'm investing as much in my learning as I'd like to. Achievement, that's pretty high. We did a TED talk for the first time a week and a half ago, so that's kind of given me a bit of a boost there. And then energy, like 7 out of 10. I'm not sure I'll get it to 10 out of 10 until I can actually start to be with people in person again. So at least I know, though, at least I don't beat myself up about it, because I know what my values are, where I've got gaps, and what it would take for me to increase them. And so what I would focus on over the next month is this one. And I think, how do I get that from a 6 to an 8? So I'm just going to pause now. I want to quickly head into, we've got quite a lot to talk about, but I just want to quickly head into the Q&A and see if there's anything in there. Let's have a little look. Some of these are quite, okay, I'm going to take the one about the interview that somebody has sent me. So someone said, tomorrow I'll be attending an interview for a promotion. I would really like to convince my boss and myself that I really want the promotion and it's a win-win for all of us. How do I do that? So this is actually a good segue to our next question, which is all around strengths, the area we're going to look at. The best way for you to think about this is to start to talk about what your strengths are, why they add value to an organization, and how in that new role, in that new promotion, they could create even more value. So I'm just going to hold that thought for that person, and I want to come back to it. But really, if you're wanting to sell yourself for a promotion, strengths is a really good way of doing it. So let's use that question as a way of transitioning onto strengths now, and I will come back to it specifically if that's okay. So strengths, what are strengths? I came across a really good definition of strengths recently, because often we think about strengths as like the things that you're good at or the things that you can become great at, and we stop there and think it's that simple. It's just the things that you're good at. But we recently interviewed someone for our podcast called Marcus Buckingham, and he said that a strength is anything that gives you energy, even if you're not good at it yet. So I kind of think a strength is anything, let's write that down, anything that gives you energy, even if you're not good at it yet. I sometimes think about this as being like a bit of a battery. So you don't have to be good at it, but it's something you enjoy doing. And a weakness is anything that takes away your energy, even if you are good at it. So a strength is anything that gives you energy, even if you're not good at it yet. And a weakness is anything that takes away your energy, even if you are good at it. Now, it's quite a complex definition, but the reason I like it is because I see so many people that get into a strengths trap at work. And what I mean by that is they have something they're good at, organization, planning, coordinating, something like that, but they don't love doing it. But because everybody sees them doing it all the time, they just end up with more opportunities to use something that they're good at that they don't love doing. And they kind of become defined by the wrong thing. The strength that they want to be known for is not what they're standing out for, and it's a bit of an issue. And what Marcus Buckingham says is actually our strengths are the things that we love doing. We don't have to be good at them yet, but they're the things that give us energy, that make us feel connected to our work. And the reason it is important to know what your strengths are and to start to map those strengths to the companies you work in and the jobs that you do is the people that do that are 6 times more engaged in their work. Remember what I said about how many hours? 80,000 hours, 47 years. When you are using your strengths, you know what you want to be known for, and you are consciously moving into roles and organizations that need those strengths, you are 6 times more engaged in your work. Imagine 2 people at one end of a desk. One person's using all their strengths. They're like all in. They're 6 times more in than the other person who's like, everything I'm good at is not what I'm doing. We want to be the person at the other end of the desk who's all in. It's better for us. And it's better for our organizations too. We'll have much more of an impact if we know what our strengths are and we get to use them. So how? That becomes the big question for us. How do we work out what our strengths are, and how do we work out how much they're showing up for us at work? One of the things that are really useful to start looking at is the difference between your impact and your intent. So we'll start here. You've got to know what it is you want to be known for. Not the list of things that you're good at, not the list of skills and experiences you acquired in your career, but if you're going to pick 2 or 3 things that you want people to say you're good at when you are not in the room, what would they be? What do you want people to say about you, say about your strengths? So I would say, whether you work with me at Microsoft or Virgin, where I've worked before, or BP, or you work with me now, there are 3 things that I want to be known for. I want to be known for developing people, I want to be known for making things happen, and I want to be known for positive energy. That's what I want people to experience when they work with me or they're in a session with me. That's what I want people to say. That's Helen Tupper, she's great at making things happen, developing people. That's it. So that's my intent. Can you work out what your intent is? And if you can't, maybe this isn't something you've spent a lot of time on before and it's something that you struggle with. Again, podcast for you, episode 27 of the Squiggly Careers podcast is all about how to work out what your strengths are. We've actually got quite a few different episodes on strengths. I can't remember all of the episode numbers, but I know that the first one that we did on strengths is episode 27. So maybe start there, and then there's some other ones that you can find. If you can't find them, I'll give you my email address at the end and just email me and I will tell you which ones the other ones are. So we've got our intent sorted. Now what we need to work out is, what is our impact? That is what people actually know you for. So this is intent, what I want to be known for. Impact is, what do people actually know me for? And the way that you find that out is you start to get yourself some feedback. You will not find that out unless you're brave enough to get some feedback. You don't know how people experience you and your efforts and your work until you ask them. An easy way for you to start getting yourself some strengths-based feedback is to ask this question. When have you seen me at my best? Ask 5 people that you work with. Spot in their answers whether there's some consistency. Is everybody saying the same thing? Are they all saying your drive for results, your creative problem solving, your positive energy? Are they all saying the same thing? Or is it a bit inconsistent? Maybe you're showing up with different strengths with different people, and you might want to think about how you construct more consistently with the things you want to be known for. So ask people that question, 5 people, then you'll be able to spot the themes, and one of 2 things will happen. The first is you might have quite a lot of overlap. What you want to be known for, your impact, is really overlapped. So your intent is really overlapped with your impact. What you want to be known for is how you're showing up to other people. That's great. That's brilliant. That means your strengths are standing out and they're consistent in all the places you are. That is brilliant. Alternatively, you might end up with a picture that looks a bit like this. Instead of an overlap, you've got a bit of a gap. The things that you want to be known for, your intent is not aligned with your impact. other people are seeing something else. And that might be a clue that there's a strength that you didn't know you had. So that could be quite positive. Or it might be a clue there's a strength that you don't want to be known for, that you're using a bit too much at work. And you might want to think a bit more consciously about how you start to make this stuff stand out. So strength, sometimes people do strength surveys and they think that's the answer, and it's not the answer, it's just an input. The answer is you being clear on what do you want to be known for, and is that how people are experiencing you? And either it'll be a yes, in which case brilliant, just find more opportunities to keep doing that, or it'll be a no because you've got a bit of a gap, and then you need to think about job crafting and how you show up with your strengths. Now back to the person who's got an interview, back to that person. What you really want to do is you want to make sure that this stuff, the stuff that you want to be known for, is what they want. And you want to create some kind of strengths pool. So if I was in an interview, what I wouldn't say is, the reason I want a promotion is because I'm good at developing people, making things happen, and I bring positive energy. I wouldn't say that, because that is me pushing my strengths onto other people. And they're either going to go, that's useful or not, or that I haven't connected with them in any way. What I need to do is create a sense of pull. And what I should say instead is, the reason I want this promotion is because I've looked at some of the challenges that are in the team over the next 12 months. And I think that some of the things that I do well are really well aligned. Let me give you an example. We've got a new project launching on, I'm making this up, everyone, on the 6th of September. And I know that's a very pressing deadline and we're already behind. One of the things that I'm really good at is making things happen. And I think if I come into this role, I'll be able to bring a sense of clarity and efficiency to that project so that we can get it delivered on time. And it's also something that I would love to do. By taking those sorts of examples, stuff that I know is going to be happening, and matching them to the things that I want to be known for, I create some pull. All of a sudden they've gone, oh, those strengths are quite valuable. We could do with those. This is a valuable reason to put this person into that role. So good luck with your promotion. The person that put that question there, make sure that you create some pull with your strengths. Everybody, we've got 10 minutes left and I've got 3 more things to talk through. So I'm going to go quite quickly. Confidence, confidence. Why do we need to talk about confidence? Well, confidence really is not about tips and tricks and how you stand. It is about belief. And it's often our own thinking that gets in our way. It's our own lack of belief in ourselves that holds us back at work. It's not whether we've got our lucky dress on or whether we're smiling at a camera, because all of those things don't really get to the deep level of belief. And so when we talk about confidence, what we don't do is go up here. When I'm talking about confidence in all of the sessions that I run, and there's lots of stuff that we do on confidence, some people focus at the stuff you can see, like tips and tricks level, the things you wear, the way you stand, the words that you use. It's tips and tricks level, it's surface level confidence. If we really want to help you in your career and stop your own thinking holding you back, we've got to get into the roots. We've got to go deeper to build your belief. And honestly, it's harder, but it is so much more impactful if we can work with your confidence at this level, if we can build your belief. Now, there are 3 things that you can do to build your belief. The first thing is you can cage your gremlins. So we call these limiting beliefs that sound like, I don't know enough, I'm going to get found out, oh, I'm scared of senior people, I don't want to fail, I need to be liked, all of that stuff. We call them confidence gremlins. They're the voices in your head that get in your way, and you've got to learn to cage them. The first 15 podcasts that I think we did are all about the most common confidence gremlins and how you can cage them. So if any of those things resonate with you and you feel like they're holding you back, go and listen to those. Obviously, it's all free, and it might help you to stop imposter syndrome getting in your way, stop a fear of presenting, stopping you from speaking up, all of that stuff. I think, like I say, I think it's the first 15 episodes of the podcast are all on that. The second thing that you can do to start to build your belief is think about your successes. So confident people have a realistic view of what they're doing well. They almost keep success logs so that they can see all the small successes that they're making. And then a third thing, which is what I want to talk to you about really quickly, is support. Your support systems. So how do you build really good support systems around you? And I want to talk through one exercise that can give you some insight into the career support system you've got today and whether you might have any gaps. It might be worth grabbing a pen and paper so that you can kind of get this one down, because there's 2 steps to doing it. So step 1 to starting to assess your career support system is to write down all the people that you give support to in the context of careers and all the people that you get support from. So for example, I give support to my business partner, Sarah. I give support to somebody who used to work for me. I give support to one of my oldest friends, Kay. You know, you write your list, try and get to a minimum of 5 people. And then think about all the people that give you career support. So I might say, I get career support from my husband, maybe from a mentor, from my business partner, from my old manager. Actually, lots of my old managers give me career support still, but you're going to write all those names down to kind of get your little list together, aim for at least 5 people, ideally more, just keep putting them down. Then you're going to draw out your career support solar system. It's a bit of a mouthful, everybody. You sit at the center of your career support solar system. That's you there. And then we're going to put 3 other rings around you, which are there to help us see how frequently you're getting support from people. So I'll draw the circles. There you go. I'll draw the circles and then I'll tell you what they mean. So the first one here, this is support that you get on a weekly basis. This is on a monthly basis, and this outer one is sort of like every 1 to 6 months you're engaging with them. And what you're going to do is plot all those people from this list here onto your support system. And I would recommend that you do this in different colours. So first of all, I'll write down the people that give me support. So my business partner, Sarah, she gives me support on a weekly basis. So her support is coming into me. So I'm going to draw that little arrow there. My old manager, James, and actually my old manager, Scott, I was going to say touch base. I'm sorry, that's really cheesy. Touch base, grief. I get in touch with them about every couple of months and they give me some support and some advice on different things. So that is going here. And then maybe I might also go to a friend about every month. We have a bit of a chat. So the support from them is going this way. And then you map on the people that you give support to. And you might well have some people that you have a mutual support relationship with. So my business partner, for example, we give each other support. But then I might put my husband in here, for example. That one's on a weekly basis. The arrow goes this way from me to him. I have my friend Kay that I mentioned. That's probably monthly. She asks some career advice. Lots of people that I used to manage, I still mentor, and that's a bit less frequently. You will have a messy diagram, but the important thing is that you start to list on here all the people you give support to, all the people you get support from. Now, what we are aiming for is a balanced picture. We want a really good spread of people. We don't want lots of people clustered in any one area. What tends to happen when you do this is you'll be able to spot that you haven't got balance in some area. And typically it's one of 2 things that are throwing your support system off. The first is you've not got balance in those different rings. So we're going here to begin with. So for example, if you end up with something like this one here, what this shows you is that you are giving a lot of support very frequently. You in the middle, all the support going out every week, you're giving support to lots of people, but you're not getting the support back in the same way. And that's really draining for you. If you've got loads of support going out to loads and loads of people, but you're not getting a lot of support back, you're basically just depleting your energy all the time, responding and reacting to what other people need from you. It's quite exhausting for you, draining. It's also a bit of a risk that you create a bit of dependency from all of those other people who are expecting you to be there for them. So you might want to think about how you could change the way that you talk to them. Maybe it's not a send me a message whenever you need me. Maybe it's let's catch up every fortnight in a meeting. Just a way of making it a bit more manageable for yourself. The other thing that you might spot when you do this for yourself is that you have an imbalance between your personal support and your professional, i.e. you've got much more friends and family in your support system than you have like people at work. It's not that one's better than another, but you want a balance. This whole thing is about balance because these people, they believe in you, they want you to do well, they hopefully love you and like you, and that feels great for your support when stuff is hard. These people know your context. They know the manager, they know the work. The advice that they can give you is probably a bit more well-informed because they get how it is. And so you want a balance. So do the exercise. I can't help you until you've done it for yourself and you know what it looks like. But typically it's one of these things that maybe has affected the balance and then you can make the changes accordingly. Nick, I'm glad this is helpful. And we've got 2 more things to go through, everybody. I feel like I have to get quicker and quicker. Networking. What is networking? Well, it is not this. It is not about people knowing people. A lot of people think that a good network is like how many people you know. This is not true. This is not true at all. How many contacts you have on LinkedIn is not a sign of a good network. It's just how many people you've connected with on LinkedIn, full stop. A really good network is active, and it is based on people helping people. I'm giving help to other people. I'm getting help, and it doesn't have to be from the same person, but it's active. We're helping each other. We're helping each other to succeed. And in terms of why that is important, when we were climbing these staircases, actually we could have smaller networks because we were staying in our roles for longer. We were staying in our organizations for longer. Our networks were actually quite homogenous. Lots of similar people. They were often quite closed, lots of closed clubs, and that you could only progress if you knew the right people. Thankfully, in squiggly careers, loads more opportunities to meet different people, engage with different people. And all these people bring with them the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to find out new things, to be introduced to new organizations, to get involved in new projects and initiatives. Squiggly careers give us the opportunity for much more diverse networks, but we've got to make them active. We've got to build them. No one gives you an active career network. It's something that you have to work at. So how can you do it? 4 different roles that you can play in a network so that you can start to really build a strong, active career network. The first thing you can do, you can be a consumer. That's a bit like what you're doing here today. You're engaging and learning, and that's not bad. It's quite passive, so you don't want to spend all of your time in consume mode. But what you can do to make it more active, to help your network, is that you can think about how you take what you're consuming, like this session, for example, today, and make it helpful to somebody else. Could you turn it into a post on LinkedIn? Could you run a 5-minute summary in your team meeting? So consume stuff, but think how you turn it into something that's helpful for other people. You can be a contributor. So this is where you're building relationships by offering something to them. Can be as simple as your time. You might see they've got something that needs to get done and you offer your time. It can be your strengths, things that you want to be known for. So I might offer my ability to make things happen. It can be expertise, it can be experience you've got, but think about how you can give what you're good at and what you know and what you're comfortable in too. Another thing you can be is the connector. I love this role. It's where you bring people together because you spot people in your network that would benefit from knowing each other, and you might introduce them over LinkedIn or over email. It's a really nice role to play. And you can also be a creator. Hardest role to do, but it puts you right at the center. So this is where you create a network, you create a reason for people to come together. So Penguin have kind of been a bit of a creator today, I guess, because they brought everyone together, but you can do it on a much smaller scale. You can bring 3 people together to talk about sustainability, if that's what you're passionate about. But think about these roles, think about where you spend time today and where you want to spend more time. Okay, we've got, I'm at time now, so I just want to talk quickly about future for you. I'll take a couple more minutes and then I'll give you my contact details if you've got questions after today. So future, what and why do we need to care about our future? I mean, it's probably pretty obvious, but future as we talk about it is all about possibilities. And the reason we need to think about it is because we got really stuck on plans, on this ladder-like thing. Like we got really fixated on career plans. I've had them. They were a Microsoft Word document that predicted exactly what I was going to do every year, I think for about 10 years, and none of it came true. And so in order to reflect the reality of our working lives, which looks way more like this, everybody, what we really need to shift to is possibilities. We need to nurture rather than be in a position of need. We need to explore rather than apply. We need to create possibilities for our future. How can you do it? Well, instead of just fixating on one single role and only looking at it when you've decided you want a new job for whatever reason, start being more curious, more proactively. And there are 4 things that I would suggest you explore. And this is where I'm going to end today's session. So the first thing to explore, the obvious role. Don't ignore it, but there will be a role that's probably quite obvious that other people have talked to you about before. That's something that you can start exploring. Does it align with your values? Does it align with your strengths? Second thing, ambitions. What is a role that you're interested in, but maybe feels a bit out of reach? Sometimes that's because it's more senior. Often it's just because you don't know people or you don't know how to make that move. There's some kind of, I'd like to do it, but there's a big but that gets in your way. There's also a pivot possibility, and you can pivot back to something you've done before. Maybe it's a profession or an organization. So I could pivot back to virgin, for example, or you could pivot forwards. This is using your strengths and expertise in a new way, for example, maybe a different organization, a different department, different team. And last but not least, the dream. Don't discount the dream. Lots of people discount the dream because they can't see how they could get there. But when you get curious about it and you start to find out more about it, maybe you realize there's some courses that you could go on. Maybe you realize someone could be your mentor. Maybe there's a side project you can start. Or what sometimes happens when we explore these things is we rule them out and we go, oh, I thought that was going to be amazing, but now I understand it more. It's just not what I want to do. And it's fine to rule things out, and it's fine to firmly rule them in. But you're doing it because you're exploring it and you're connecting it with your strengths and your values and the things that you want to do. So I would say start to write these down and just start to have conversations with people, reach out, talk about people, nurture these relationships. It helps you to create opportunities for yourself before you might need or want them, and spot the skills that you might need to develop now so that you can do the things that you want to do in the future and you don't create any kind of time lag or dependency. It's a really healthy thing for you to do for your careers, to explore your possibilities. So we are at the end now. Very quickly, careers are squiggly. I happen to think that sometimes that makes them hard, but more often it makes them brilliant, because no two squiggles are the same, and we can design our own squiggly careers. And I think that creates an opportunity for us all to be much more individual in what we do. We talked about values, what makes you you, what motivates and drives you. We talked about strengths, the things that give you energy, the impact and the intent, and whether there's an overlap or a gap. We talked about confidence, building your belief, starting that belief, caging your gremlins, recognizing your successes, building your support systems. Networking, all about people helping people. Let's not fixate on how many contacts we've got. Let's think about how many people are helping in their careers and what the help that you might need is too. And then let's change how we think about our future. Let's think possibilities and not plans. I know that has been a whistle-stop tour. I've seen that people have shared podcast stuff. There is like 200 episodes on so many topics that can help you. Yeah, go to the thing that you need now. Don't start at the beginning. You'll be there forever. So just go to the episode that you most need right now. And if you have questions after today, you can email me, because I haven't been able to get through so many of them that have been on the Q&A. It's just helen@amazingif.com. Instagram is where we share like competitions and tips, all that kind of stuff. It's just @amazingif. And there's our website if you want to help us. One very last thing is that this is not the end of the lunchtime boosts. So there are more career sessions coming. So in mid-March, there are loads more sessions. I can't write that at the moment, but they'll be in the newsletter. So make sure that you signed up for the Penguin Live newsletter, and you'll get competitions, new sessions, and they're all going to be free for you. So other ways that you can invest, you can be a consumer, and you can use that knowledge to help other people too. I hope this has been helpful. Thank you all for your engagement. It's been lovely to spend a bit of time with you. It's always a boost for me too. I love doing this. Remember, the things that I like doing are helping people and positive energy. So you're giving me loads of that, and that makes me feel good about my day and my work. So thank you so much, everybody. Take care of yourselves, and hope to see you on a session at some point in the future. Bye, everybody.